GM, everyone. Welcome back to the SandStorm stream. And today we have a very exciting project, Mid Division. They're doing a lot and they're very experienced as well. So we're going to talk all about it today. So let's just start with a quick intro of you guys.
Sounds good. Hey, my name is Ramon. I'm the CEO and founder of Myth Division, and I won't go too much into my background, but we've been building in the entertainment space for a long time. Before NFTs, probably most well known for comic books, and there was a few years where I was managing all of Baron Davis, the NBA players. Content, so doing everything from development of ideas all the way through to production and distribution of some animation and projects like that. So that's like the long and short of my background, and I'm joined by our art director at Myth Division, Edgy, who's
Hello.
just a mega talented dude. We've worked together for many years, mostly in the comic space, and more recently he transitioned over to Sandbox and has been building out our giant 3x3 city that we'll be talking about today.
Awesome. And are you building it alone? The giant city in the Sandbox?
Yes.
He is.
Alone.
And he's like 80%
You are a champion.
complete. He's like 80% complete. He's been working on
That's
this.
crazy.
When did you start, Edgy?
I've worked. I learned the Sandbox 3 days.
And
I start
over
to
a
build
weekend. Over a weekend.
Over the weekend, yes. And I start in January, I think. January.
Yeah.
Yes, I start in January. Yes, and I'm almost finished.
You must be naturally good at it then if you were able to learn it in such a short amount of time. I can't
don't know.
imagine my
Let me tell you something. He's very modest, but he is truly a master at just art in general. I've been working with him for years, and his comic book art and his 2D art is just spectacular. So when we were like, okay, I'm going to need to get more builders for this city, he literally, I didn't even know he was going to dig into the Sandbox by himself. And, he's just got a natural gift, I think, for art. He's got a vision. And so that's why I chose him as our art director. I was like, there's nobody I trust more.
And I didn't know I can do that. So I just try and I find it cool. So
nice. And the comic book art on the website, is it designed by you?
A lot of it is actually. The first images I think that you see with like the elk and some of those really cool anime looking characters, that's his artwork. Yeah.
They look amazing. He's a high quality artwork.
Yeah, he's, like I said, this guy is, you're talking to like an artistic genius here. Like, he's super modest. Like, you would never guess. But I'm like, I'm never letting you go. You're never leaving anywhere, Angie.
No, I don't want.
He's live from my dungeon downstairs.
Yeah. After that, I go back to the dungeon to work.
Yeah, exactly.
He bring me some bread and waters.
And some of that artwork is from a comic book project that we did years ago, and it ended up on a digital platform called Tapas. And we're super excited because we're actually getting the rights back for that project in the next week or two. And so we're actually going to be, well, I don't want to say too much, but let's just say NFTs are changing the game for us. So we want to really kind of reward our community and expand our world with a lot of the different stuff we've already done in comics. So we're excited.
Yeah, and your team, you guys have been together since 2017. I don't think it was formed recently after you discovered NFT. So do you want to talk about how that came about, why you guys decided to transition into NFTs, and what you have been able to accomplish outside of the NFT space?
Sure, absolutely. So like I said in the beginning, my background really was in entertainment. I moved to Hollywood, and I was born in LA, and when I was a kid, my dad was in the Army, so we moved to Washington, D.C., and I kind of spent my childhood years going back and forth. So I had always kind of had a love for entertainment and storytelling as a writer, and I knew that I wanted to move back to LA and find work in Hollywood. So in 2007, after college and bartending and waiting tables for a while. I saved up a little bit of money and moved back out with the intentions of building a writing career, and quickly learned that you have to produce your own stuff if anybody's going to pay attention to it. No one's going to finance your work if you're new, right? So kind of just cut my teeth doing productions, small productions. Eventually got some jobs. I started my own production company while I was waiting tables and bartending, and basically got really lucky with the people that I had met who ended up employing me to do short form content for channels like Stanley's World of Heroes and Machinima, back when they were like pumping out a lot of, that content on YouTube. And I was able to kind of just transition into marketing and learn about how to write copy and all that kind of stuff. And so I kind of had an idea of multi-platform storytelling back then. That was always my goal. So I had always loved comics and movies and anime, and I had always known I wanted to make that stuff. So I just kind of started learning from people in Hollywood, just kind of tried to learn and soak up as much as I could from people who were experienced, and just worked hard while I was waiting tables and bartending. My side job was just kind of whatever gigs I could get, learning. And eventually that's what led me to being able to work for Scopely, the mobile game company. And so I was doing marketing for them, for The Walking Dead, Road to Survival game. And that was a lot of fun. And it taught me a lot about just like how game companies work and how to really kind of like market a game, right? And then from there, that allowed me to get the job with Baron Davis. And so I was kind of managing his Black Santa project. He wanted to do animation and games and a bunch of other stuff. And I just kind of had the skills that were needed to be that like sort of executive manager role. So I did that for a few years. And after a while, I just kind of got disenfranchised with Hollywood because there's so much red tape and there's so much nepotism and there's so many it's a favor-based system. And so if you're not in that club, it's really hard to break in and make it. So was right around 2017 was when I was transitioning away from that job. And I was just like, I just want to do this for myself. I want to, at the time I was doing my own campaigns on Kickstarter and financing my own comics. So I just leaned heavily into that and started kind of creating more comics and broke away, founded Myth Division. And from there, I just started cherry picking some of my favorite people that I had worked with over the years who had experience, just much more like specialized than I did. So my two partners, the co-founders of Myth Division, Neil Fisher and Nicole Rio, they were just good friends of mine that I had known for years. And Neil he had been the head of development over at a company called Davis Films. And so he was basically working with this really a billionaire who was financing films like Resident Evil and Silent Hill. And he was the one who was kind of helping him manage the IP. Like, how do you take a video game and turn it into a film? So he was largely responsible for turning, Resident Evil into a movie franchise. And Silent Hill into a movie franchise. So he knew how to manage those budgets at that high level, how to, deal with celebrities and agencies and all that stuff, right? And I had a little taste of that when I was working with Baron Davis, but he was really more hands-on. And Nicole too, she was working with producers like Brian Grazer and the Bruckheimers and just all these like really high-level people. So I was like, why don't we just like pick the best people that I know that have that experience and really build out our, at the time the word was transmedia company, and like have our animation department and our film department and all this. But then the challenge is, where do you get the money, right? You either have to go to Kickstarter or you have to go to investors. And so what really kind of got me incredibly interested in NFTs was I was already in crypto. I had already been familiar with Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I had made some money during that first pop a few years ago. I can't even remember anymore if it was 2017, I think, or 18.
Yeah.
But that big
around
pop,
there.
yeah, somewhere around there. I think it was like, I remember it was like a really good Christmas that year. But that you kind of showed me the potential of crypto. I had seen sort of possibilities, and I've done a lot of research into economics and history and government. So I kind of saw the writing on the wall for fiat a few years ago, and I kind of knew like this is a bubble that's going to burst at some point. So crypto's gonna get ahead at some point. So yeah, I just kind of heavily invested in that, and that's how I got into NFTs. I was on Clubhouse almost a little over a year ago, February of last year, and I was just listening to all these people that were kind of overlapped in crypto, but also in NFTs, and I was like, oh, NFTs, that sounds interesting. And I had found out about CryptoPunks and Crypto Kitties and some of those projects. And so it was before Bored Ape Yacht Club. And then I remember being in the room live when everyone was celebrating Beeple's sale for like 69 million, right? And that's really when kind of the mainstream took it seriously and was kind of like, whoa, what's this NFT shit? And that clicked for me like a few weeks before that. Like, this is the answer to like what the problem I've been trying to solve for multi-platform content, because you have this like IP that you can play with, but you also own, and you can like make revenue off of it if you know how to do that correctly. So I just leaned heavily. I took a bunch of Bitcoin that I had and converted that to ETH and just started investing in NFTs. So I think I started with maybe like 40K or something like that, and just converted it and was just kind of buying here and there. I think I bought one piece or two pieces before I found Bored Apes. And so like a week after Bored Apes minted, it was like first week in May, I think, I found out that you could own the IP. And I was like, oh shit, this is it. This is like the answer. Like, if I can buy into this IP, I see the potential, I can make my own character. So I just went shopping and like I bought a floor ape, and that's like my Twitter PFP now. I was like, cool. I was like, I like this guy. He's got, these colors. I'll call him American Ape, and we'll just make a comic book out of it, because it's something I had already done. Animation too, so I could, sort of see ourselves doing something like that. And that's really what set us on the journey. Like, the rest is history. I started just buying more apes, and until they got out of my price range. I think the last ape I bought was like 15 ETH or 16 ETH, and then I was like, all right, I can't really be buying any more apes right now. So yeah, and then I just started investing in other projects and buying other IP, and so that sort of is like how we got started. And then I was already working with Edgy on the comic side, and we were already planning animations and other stuff. And I was like, hey, check it out. This is the answer. We come jump over here and check this out. And it took some convincing, right? Because a lot of artists are still really resistant to this idea of NFTs. So there's a lot of education. I remember I put out like a Facebook post or something, and I was like, who wants to make a lot of money with NFTs? And everyone was just kind of like crickets. Like, nobody was really, nobody cared, right? But eventually, Edgy, thank God, like, it's been so many years. He trusted me. He was like, all right, I'll give this a shot. I mean,
even if at first I had a lot of doubt. When you start to talk to me about NFT, I said, what he's talking about? And I said, okay, trust him, let him do his things. I see.
Do you mind sharing what you were doubting about the space?
As all new things coming out, you don't really know how it works, and it was confusing. For me, it was confusing. So I was not scared about it, but where are we going, with all that? And as an artist, it could be strange to say that, but we work so much about our art, and for years. And sometimes when you have to sell just a picture, it takes you a longer time and not for much. And suddenly with NFTs, you have all this replicated art sold, and in short time, and you are surprised about it. I said to myself, I spent so much time to sell just one drawing, and I see people with NFTs selling so much drawing in less time. So I was doubting, is it a trick? Is it something not possible? And Ramon explained to me how it works, and I said to him, okay, let's try. Why not? And right now, I still watching how it works, but I'm less I have less fear about it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's a learning lesson.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the prices, right? Just in the conversion from ETH to dollars is so much. Like 0.05, sounds like nothing if you're in ETH, right? But when you convert it to dollars or euros or whatever, you're like,
yes,
that piece of art you sold $700. what? I can't even
Yeah.
sell this, and you see the art on our website, right? Selling a print like that, is hard to sell it for $15 or $20 at a convention or with traditional art. So I definitely understood the skepticism that, a lot of the people I was talking to had, and they were like, it's too unbelievable. I don't believe this shit. What are you guys, what are you doing? Like, I don't
Yeah.
understand. So, yeah, I think that was a lot of it. But yeah, so that's when we started and sort of pivoted into Sandbox. I mean, I invested in Sandbox pretty early. Right after Bored Apes, I was like, all right, now what's next? Like, obviously we could do the stuff that we used to do, but Web3 is really the answer. So what is it about Web3 that brings that value? And I noticed right away that it was community. Hanging out with those apes in the early days, it was like everyone was just excited to be in a space in the Discord or on Twitter or whatever the platforms. I mean, those are the two platforms that are still prominent. But I quickly realized that like this 3D virtual experience is really like where things are headed. So when I found out that you could buy virtual land and build on it and make a gamified experience, I was like, oh, that's a no-brainer. I was like, this is just too good. Like I bought, a couple different plots very early on in the summer of 2021. And I mean, literally, I think we have like 78 plots now that we're going to have to build out. This is like just the beginning for us. And for a long time, it was hard to find builders. There's really not enough people that like even knew about it or understood it or could wrap their head around like the ideas that we had for a few years. And this like tech just was the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And
Why? Go
sorry,
ahead.
just and with the NFTs and the sand, it's opened a new opportunity for artists to create. It was a little bit difficult because there's a lot of artists, and to be seen, it was complicated. And it's true with NFTs and the sand, you can show a different way to create and make art. So this is a good opportunity.
I think the sandbox is going to be great for artists because it seems like right now there's a lot of demand for builders and there's not
Mhm.
enough builders.
Yeah.
So I think the whole Web3 space is going to just be amazing for any type of artist out there. I'm very interested in seeing how that plays out. Yeah. Why did you pick the sandbox specifically over the Central Land or Somnium space?
It's a good question. I think ultimately it was just an exposure thing. For I think once the Bored Ape Yacht Club announced that they had land in the Sandbox, I mean, I know they were prominent in Decentraland. For me, it was an aesthetic thing. I think I enjoy what Decentraland is doing, but for me, it just felt very like I don't know, almost like a video game avatar, like a Wii avatar or like a Xbox avatar that just felt very like generic to me. And so what I liked about this was it was very highly stylized. And even though it's voxel and there are limitations to what you can do with the designs, again, it was just very stylized. And I felt like we could do something creative that stood out with world building that we might not be able to achieve in the same way in Decentraland. So I just kind of went all in on the team really too. I listened to some podcasts. Sebastian was in Clubhouse as well at the time, a little bit more frequently. So I was able to sit in and listen to their vision and their plan and their background and their history. And I mean, as you probably know now, the big thing when you're looking at any project is you're betting on the team, right? And I just didn't know enough about Decentraland, and there's just something that attracted me to Sandbox, and I felt like this was a play for us with the resources that I had at the time. I was like, let's just go all in on this and see if we can see what we can do with this. And then, the more apes I talked to and the more, gutter cat people that I talked to, it just kind of made more sense to invest more in this space. But that being said, we are also, Edgy's bar, he was already building in Unreal Engine these beautiful settings that we still plan to use. So when we can find, I think, the proper platform to host it, we are going to expand our metaverse presence into that like really high res render at some point.
Awesome. And you have some pretty pretty I don't even know how to put this, pretty prominent clients and partners in the past. Do you want to talk about them?
Yeah, I mean, just from my experience in the comics world and the teams that we've had, we've had the opportunity to work with just so many big names. Again, being able to work with Stan Lee is probably like one of my proudest moments. I think I still get emotional just thinking about it because I was a big Marvel kid, like growing up, like Spider-Man and the X-Men. Like that was my jam. That like defined my childhood, and so being able to work in Hollywood and have not just like collaborators, but people hire us and our teams to create their worlds really validated my dream in a lot of ways. It made it because when you're pursuing a dream in Hollywood, it's like it's not a cliche that like it fucking breaks you sometimes. Excuse my language. I don't know if we can curse or not, but it can. There are moments where like there were points where like I had no money for rent. Like I was homeless for like a period of time, and so those are the moments when you can either pack it up and quit and go home and go live with your parents and figure out your shit again, or you just stick through it knowing you believe in what you're doing and you're just gonna press through. So I can't even like specifically think of any like memorable moments now, just because after working with Baron and the stuff that we've been doing recently, like though, and some of the relationships that we have now are just so much bigger in scope than even some of the credits that we have on our website, right? So it's like just most of the artists that we've worked with too. I feel like I have a good eye for talent, for artists in general, just because I have such a particular taste, I guess you could say. So I have like a very high bar for the kind of artwork that I want to collaborate with. So I was lucky enough that in starting as an indie publisher and indie writer in comics, I worked with a lot of people who didn't have any credits. They hadn't done, really big books. And then they went on to work for the Marvel and DC and DreamWorks and like, you name it. Like literally, if I go back to people I worked with 6-7 years ago, they all went on and have huge like credits now. So it's kind of cool because those are the same people now that I'm having conversations about NFTs now. And they're like, hey, so what have you been up to? Like, what's up with the NFT stuff? And so we're actually bringing some of those people back into the fold, into Myth Division to now build out like our own version of that, right? I don't have to necessarily go and pitch something to Marvel or Image or DreamWorks. Like we're actually working on building our own platform now where we can distribute our own content, and we'll have our own NFT gated platform where, like our alpha coin holders, they are like, I call them our MVPs for life. Like they get all access to everything we do, including our platforms, whatever. So it's just been kind of cool to be able to have, that on our resume. But ultimately it was more like a means to an end. It's just kind of like, a stepping stool, because at the end of the day, the artists are just like second rate in that system, in the old system, right? Web 2 is all about like the corporation has everything and the artist is just like a tool. And so, you have to kind of utilize your resume to move forward, to get hired for other stuff. And it's a gig to gig thing. And, the common phrase is it's feast or famine, right? You either have an awesome gig or like you can't find a job for like 3 months, right? So we're working really hard to combat that and offer an alternative to that. So that's really what Myth Division is. It's a studio that we're building to be able to offer better deals to artists. So like, being able to do these NFT projects and give the artist a big percentage of that, like it's life-changing money for them too. So they're much more excited to come back and do more. Like I have, our artist for Waifu Warriors is like, hey, when are we doing the next, collection? And I'm like, great. So we're doing our allies that we're going to be, offering our holders. They're going to be able to mint for free. We have that roadmap and we're just following through. And I actually have like a long list of artists that are like, when can we collaborate? And I'm like, I don't want to launch like 6 projects, guys. I got to deliver, to our holders and give them the value first. and then we'll be able to like expand. So it's a pretty cool position to be in, I think.
Can you talk about the Waifu Warriors in more detail?
Yeah, absolutely. So that was something that came from a very early problem, and I don't feel like we have that problem anymore. But there weren't any at all female avatar collections, and so I had a long conversation with my co-founder Nicole about it, because she was like, "Hey, the monkeys are cool, but like, how come I don't get an avatar?" I was like, that's a good point, Nicole. So, that's when we decided to do Waifu Warriors as a collection. We loved anime, but we also, my wife was a big supporter of it. It's really all about female empowerment, and not just like in a sort of cliche way. There's something that can be said for a powerful woman that's sexy. And so we didn't want to neglect that. And we had a niche audience in mind as well, because we love anime and we felt we could deliver a roadmap and find distribution for the project. And so after kind of considering all of that, Nicole and I and Neil, we all talked about it and decided to launch this project with our artist. And it's just been such a great experience. It was a learning experience for sure, because our original programmer, let's just say, didn't include some things that we, in hindsight, realized we needed. So it's been cool. We sold 3,000 out of the collection, and then we ended up basically burning the rest. So originally we had a collection of like 11,000, but we did organic marketing. So I didn't pay influencers. I wasn't, paying people to spam Discord. I was just very highly against that tactic. And so we didn't sell out as many as we wanted, but I felt good about the community that came on board. And so a lot of our mods and our most active people in Discord are people that they like minted. They were there. They've been there for a long time. It's been an organic group of people. And so they've slowly over time got to watch our like organic growth. But we're excited because, we're already working on the comic. We've got an animation that's already in pre-production. And we're working on basically establishing the pitch to get distribution pretty soon. So we're working hard on that. And then, so we've got potions coming out next week, and that's going to be a lot of fun. And that's really tied into our gamification, because we are building a sandbox experience for Waifu. That's one of the next things right after we finish Orangarok. We're going to move on to kind of building out that 3x3. And that's going to be right next to Voxo Deos. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that project. We're actually collaborating with them to do their comic series right now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I love what they're doing. I love Satiris and the guys and the whole team over there. So we're building right adjacent to them. We're going to have our Waifu Warriors sandbox build. So we're just trying to pack as much value as we can. We've got potions. We've got weapons. We've got, there's an example there. Edgy built that this week. It's pretty cool. And then we've got allies coming and companions coming. And it's really just like, the way I look at it, I'm really excited to reinvest back into the community. I know that there's a lot of rugs out there, and there's a lot of founders that like, the running joke is, your favorite founder takes 80% of the profits and like puts 20% back into the project, right? And we see that all the time. But because of my experience building for years and years and years, and really wanting to accomplish big things, I've always believed in reinvesting back into the content, back into the project. And so this just makes it easy, because when I do give the community stuff, they're more excited and they're like more bullish on it, and like they spend more time in the Discord. So it's like, I don't know, it's an easy formula for me, and I think it makes sense for us. So we're excited to do these these follow-ups to expand it, kind of like Gutter Cats did, because we only have 3,000 minted. It kind of leaves opportunity for us to introduce a broader world, because we have big plans for it, with the animation and with the platform that we're building. So I think the allies are going to be pretty cool, because they're going to be counterparts to the waifu. So people who maybe don't want a waifu as their avatar, they may connect more with the allies or even the companions that are going to come out. So we're pretty excited about that.
And the comic and the animation, it's already in development?
Yes. So the comic book is actually being written right now. the tricky part was actually trying to find a female artist that we really, just the quality that we really wanted. Because it's a highly like action martial arts book, and so I really wanted to find an artist that could capture that like the action really, ultimately. And so we finally found this amazing artist who happens to be Russian, and unfortunately, because of what's happening right now with Russia and Ukraine, she's kind of going through a transition period. So we're just kind of waiting for her to start. But yeah, that's already in the works, and then and the animation as well. We have the character designs were just done, and we've been kind of teasing those in the Discord and a little bit on Twitter. But we're basically just setting up for a whole multi-platform story. I mean, it's one world. You know, the whole premise is that these warriors were kind of pulled from their individual dimensions to face this enemy, and so it's going to be a lot of explanation of like, you know, why they were chosen and what they're supposed to do. But we have a collection called Waifu Worlds, which kind of has all of the different settings, and they're basically from different dimensions. So that's going to account for why you might find someone who looks just like you. It's your double, but it's like the Into the Spider-Verse sort of like multiverse approach. And so this Sandbox experience is actually going to be this cool like juxtaposition of worlds that are all kind of like coming together, in this sort of magical way. So it's going to be pretty cool. These are the 3D models that are amazing. Admin has put together. You know, some of you might know her. She had a company called Battle Bunny, and she's been just one of our biggest collectors. Honestly, she loves the sailors. She's been collecting like every single one that comes out. I think she's our largest sailor trait holder. And she has her own battalion. Basically, it's like the running joke in our Discord. Like, we're actually going to incorporate her sort of plans into our animation, and that's just really how we're approaching this. We really want to, there are other projects that, like the Bored Apes and Gutter Cats and Oni Force, that give you the IP rights, but they don't all. I feel like they don't all support the individual holders as much as I would like to see. So what we're trying to do is actually take the ideas that our holders have and incorporate that into canon. So that gives people just more of a sense of ownership and participation and the ability to actually make money off of your tokens by us licensing that, right? In a similar way to how Jenkins is doing it. I mean, we had this plan. Actually, I was talking to Jenkins a long time ago about it, but we had this plan very early on, and I purposely bought apes with that intention of like, utilizing the IP and then figuring out when we do our collection, how do we license our holders' tokens to help them make money off of this. We're really doing this to help empower people. So, I would say anyone who's like a writer or an artist, like, if you buy into our collection, we're going to help nurture your career. We want to see you win. We want to see you make money off of this. And obviously we don't want to like promise money because that's unethical, but you get what I'm saying. Like, we really want to just help empower people to take control of their career.
Yeah. Just give back to the community as much as you can.
It's like the Web3 philosophy, right? Like, that's the whole point, is like, we could do things the old way, but it's much more fun when everyone's invested and everyone's excited. It's like, it's like if you own Batman before Batman became Batman, right? Like, everybody owns a character and they can all sort of feed into this major story, but you can own that. You can make money off of that. You can do merch and, apparel and all kinds of stuff. But we're here to help support that infrastructure so that people can do that, right? And that's what Orangarok is. That's why we're building it. It's sort of like our testing ground for this, right? We were building this city. We're doing right now the auctions on the residents, which our whole Discord is so pumped about. Like, I'm actually updating the metadata today. I was working on that before the call. We're gonna release all 50, the rest of the citizens. They're basically residents of Orangarok, and basically when you have a resident, you get keys to an apartment. So you'll be able to have an apartment and a retail space, and we're going to include you in the canon. So as we write the comics for Bored Ape Seeks Yacht Club and American Ape, that whole storyline is about him in Ragnarok, and all the hijinks that ensue. So you're going to see those residents throughout the story, and then we're giving them, a piece of that equity. Like it's not major because there's so many, but there's, it's a start. We really want to start kind of like offering that value and getting people excited about storytelling.
Okay, awesome. And how do you go about the waifu ally drops, the potions, and the weapons? Are they just given out to the holders?
They're gonna mint, so they'll mint for free. If you're a waifu warrior holder, you'll be able to come to our website. I believe we're aiming for next Friday, the 8th. We're gonna do a snapshot a couple days before that. I think it's either gonna be Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. They're just finalizing the contract today, actually. We've got a really great smart contract developer he's incredible. Him and his team are amazing. It took us a while to find him, but now we've got a partnership going, so he's literally doing all of our drops. And basically anyone who's a waifu holder will be able to come to our website, mint for free, and you get to claim one potion per waifu. And then also our alpha access coin holders will also be able to claim one potion per coin that they hold. So that's like the bonus for being an alpha holder is, you get all the perks of literally any collection that we have. So it'll function as a mint pass, or it'll function as like, any free airdrops that we do. So we've got the mint for that. We're gonna do the same thing. There's gonna be a public sale as well. So the kind of secret sauce, and this is something I haven't really talked about in the Discord even. I was saving it for this. Those allies that we're gonna drop are actually gonna be you're going to be affected by these potions too. So even though they don't exist yet, and we're doing that drop in the future, the potions, there's less potions than there are characters to use them on. So the idea is when we do the allies, and even when we do future drops of different projects, we wanted to create the ability for things like potions and weapons and accessories to be able to be used on any collection. So I think that just kind of adds an extra kind of utility that hasn't been seen before. Because even with the apes, right, the serum only works on the apes, and you get your mutant. The gutter gang, they have the juice, right, and that's only going to work on your specific character, right. But we're trying to kind of push the envelope on interoperability, and so that's why with these potions, they're going to add, these sort of they're like skills essentially, right? Okay. Dexterity, powers, all these different things that you would use in a game. That's what the potions are going to affect, and so that's the idea. You'll be able to claim it for free, and then we'll do a very small public sale of a couple of them. We're not going to sell all of them, so the ones that are kind of like, I guess, the rarest are not going to be for sale, but the other 4 will be. And then they'll be able to be saved and used later if you want. Just a little game theory there for people. And then we're planning on launching the weapons next. So that's going to come in April, probably the next couple weeks. Just depends on how long it takes us to do the contract. But those are going to be ERC 721s. So they're all going to be individual weapons that you can then use in the sandbox is what we're talking about doing.
Cool. And if I remember correctly, I saw that waifu allies was total supply of 5,555
for the allies.
Yeah. So will the rest be a public mint?
Yeah. So the reason for that is because we have about 2,900 waifu left because we did a burn. People were able to burn their waifu for the alpha token, actually, for that alpha coin. We wanted to give, like, the way I've approached this space is like, after seeing some of the other collections just price their stuff really almost unrealistically, like if it's normal life, no one's really gonna, how do you justify spending like $2,000 on a mint, right? It's hard, like, and that prices people out. It caters to whales. I don't like that mindset. I don't like that sort of elitist, approach to it. So I wanted to give people who maybe don't have a lot of money the ability to kind of like game their way up. And so we've done these sort of burn mechanisms to allow people to take their really cheap mints and then, burn them, or go, sweep secondary and then burn them and then, sort of trade up. And so, so yeah, with that, we have about 2,900 waifu left that are actually active. The rest are in like the burn address. And then we've got the roughly, I want to say 130 or 140 alpha coin holders. And so they'll be able to mint their ally for free. And then from there, the rest of them will be a public sale. So after those, I guess roughly 3,000 are minted, we'll have another 2,500 basically left.
Okay, awesome. And on the website, they said that there was community rewards, such as rewarding diamond hands. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing I love about this space, and it comes from me being a collector at heart. I've collected comics since I was 8, and there's just something that I love about collecting things. Maybe it's just kind of like human nature in some way. So for me, when I buy NFTs, I buy them for the long-term hold. I'm looking at like, I don't know, do I really want to have this? Am I proud of this? Do I think it's cool? I'm not of the like day trader or flipper mindset. So I like the idea of rewarding people that come in early and stick around. I look at it as if I were a buyer or a customer or a holder, like how would I want to be treated? And so I just try and reward those kinds of behaviors, right? So, the people that have bought in waifu and like just continued collecting. I mean, there were times where the floor dropped to like, I think 0.02 or something. Our mint was 0.07. And so it's just like kind of offering incentive to buy that cheap. Because we're going to be building out these little like war tribes essentially. And so we're going to be building like monuments to our OG holders and really incorporating that into the story and making it like part of the full-on transmedia multi-platform story. Like if we have these competitions inside the Sandbox and there's fighting and battles and all that kind of stuff, we want to memorialize that. We want to kind of reward the people who have like 25 or 50 of the waifu and really give them a bigger presence in the IP itself. Because again, it just rewards people and makes them feel like they actually own it. I mean, they do, right? They own the tokens. And we wanted to just kind of give it more of a, I don't know, reward, I guess is the word, but we just really wanted to incentivize people to really feel like it's real ownership and not just ownership in name, where it's like, yeah, sure, you own this token, but like you will never see your character in like the main animation or the main game. And we just see Sandbox as a great opportunity to incorporate all that. So, I don't want to give away too much about the game mechanics yet because we're getting ready to like move on to that next phase. So the next few months for us is going to be that gamification now that Edgy's almost done with the build, especially for Ragnarok. But we're part of the game is going to be accomplishing things. There's going to be competitions. There's going to be, things like that, that the reward for winning those things is going to be like featuring you here or featuring you there, your character, immortalizing your character in different ways and just tying that into the story, into the comic book or into the animation in like really creative ways. And you're looking at some of these custom covers that we did. They
look amazing.
Thank you. Yeah. We have a great team that's been working on the Bored Ape Seeks Yacht Club comic. And so we're really establishing that aesthetic. Like they actually did the album cover for Timbaland's ape group. So we've been commissioned by a couple people to do some really cool artwork, different apes. And we're just establishing that as like our visual style for the apes. And that's just sort of like part of our branding. So it's been a lot of fun. And the way people were able to get these is by burning some of the basic number 0 comics. We were very fortunate. And again, I'm such I'm so against the like elitism sometimes that I see with some of these sale prices that when we did our comic, we sold it for 0.01 and did like 5,000, maybe like 5,600 copies. It was 5636, which is my apes number. And so we did that, and we sold out in like 30 minutes. And so we had all these people that had like 20 copies or 10 copies or whatever, and they were like, what do we do with them? I'm just going to sit here. What's the utility? And I was like, okay, well, why don't you burn anyone who within a certain window burns, 11 points worth, and I created a whole point system, will get one of these custom covers. And it was literally like, we paid for it, we made it, we included whatever character they wanted, whether it was an ape or not. And that was really it. And that was really cool. This I was super excited about. And honestly, we wouldn't have been able to do this without the NFT community. It was an animation, and I convinced my buddy at Riot Games, he does a lot of their storyboards and has worked on a ton of their stuff, to come and storyboard it and direct this little short piece. And so this cost us quite a bit. It was definitely not cheap, but we paid up front. We paid the artists up front, and then we gave them some of the back end. And we were really proud of how that 30 seconds came out. But what it did was it proved to us that we're capable of producing this quality of content. So now what we're working on is a longer version of this, not necessarily this scene, but we're building out this animation in this style, with John coming back to direct a longer piece. And that's going to have story attached and voiceover actors and all that stuff. And that's going to tie right into what we're building in Orangarok. So this scene actually takes place in Orangarok. And so you'll notice the pagoda right there in the background is actually the pagoda that you see in our build. And again, our residents are going to have the opportunity to pop up in these shorts that we're going to continue doing.
Nice. Are you able to talk about the story of American Ape, or would that be giving away too much?
Yeah, no, I think at this point, it's totally fine. Our followers are excited about it. I'm sure they want it. Our holders want more people to know about it.
That video was amazing, by the way.
Thank you. We're really proud of it, man, and we just want to do more. I mean, that's really it. We want to expand this world and tell more of these stories. And so it's all grounded in Orangarok. That's like the home base. And essentially the story is this. So I have two apes that look similar, and I did this on purpose. The first one I bought was American Ape. And then I kind of had this, I was like, all right, if we're going to tell this story, from an IP standpoint, I had to think about how are we going to dip in and out of either official Bored Ape canon or should we not? Or I was really trying to reach out to as many apes as I could to figure out if we could really create this Web3 native story. And that's the first issue that we did, number 0, which is the origin story. And this essentially sets up the whole background for who American Ape is. So what I decided to do was create the origin in another dimension and have American Ape come into the metaverse. And so he wakes up in this lab and he's like, no idea where he is, no memory of who he is, anything. And then he jumps through this portal. First he finds his traits, he finds his jacket and his hat. It matches his number, 5636. So he finds his locker, he looks in there and realizes, okay, I guess this is my stuff, puts on the hat, and he ends up jumping through this portal because he recognizes the BAYC, and he sees the portal showing what looks like the Bored Ape Yacht Club. So he jumps through and realizes that it's a billboard, and he's in Orangarok, and so he's like, oh, I don't know where I am. Oh shit, where did I go? And so this whole premise of the whole story is he's just trying to get to the Bored Ape Yacht Club. He wants to know what it is, how to get there, because he feels like because he has a hat, that's the answer to who he is. And so all these crazy characters basically think he's the actor who plays American Ape in the movies. And so I have this other ape. It's Ryan Apeling, and he's just got the stunt jacket. He's the same sort of ape, but he has no hat and no 3D glasses. And so we're building out that story where everyone thinks that this is the actor, Ryan Apeling, and they want to kick his ass because he owes people money. And he's like, pissed a bunch of people off. The ape father is looking for him. We have our gutter dog mafia that we've created that we're still building that is also looking for him. And so it's just that kind of crazy adventure through Orangarok. And that's going to tie into exactly what we're building in the Sandbox. when you go into the Sandbox, you're going to be able to follow along that story and meet people who are also looking for American Ape, looking for Ryan Apeling, and that plays into part of the gamification that we're building.
This is amazing. I feel like when companies like Mid Division and Jenkins Valley, when they're able to successfully, pull off their vision, people will finally start to understand what NFTs are all about.
I hope so. Yeah, there's a comment from our co-founders, Super Neil. He's amazing. He's just done so much to help us with our behind the scenes with the film stuff that we've got going on. Like I said, he's got a tremendous amount of experience. But you're absolutely right, and that's what got people like Neil and Nicole to support this vision, because once I was able to explain it to them, they got it and they see what the power of this technology can do, because it's an answer to all the problems and shortcomings of trying to do this with traditional media. Because again, you're at the mercy of investors or a studio or a larger company who oftentimes they just don't get it. They can't wrap their, I've been pitching something like this. It wasn't with the apes, but it was with other projects. Another project, Menagerie, which Edgy's worked on, and we have 6 comic books out already. We have a whole anthology. I have writers from Marvel and DC that contributed. And I went around and I was pitching that. I pitched it to Amazon. I pitched it to a few production companies. And I was pitching this whole transmedia experience where the comic tied into the animation, tied into the live action. And nobody got it. Or they at least weren't willing to take that risk and invest in it, right? They were, oh, well, sounds cool, but whatever. Yeah. And so we got largely ignored. Actually, a few people stole our ideas, not the plot and premise, but the business model, and executed it themselves with other projects, right? And so that's really disheartening. And so what this space has allowed us to do is really cut out those people, those middlemen, and bring it directly to the community, show you guys by doing it, right? Following through, creating the roadmap, making sure we stick to it. And then, we're finally getting to the point, I think, where we put out the animation, we've put out a few comics. People are starting to get it. I think once Orangarok is fully functional and gamified and people can come in and see it, a lot more people will start to take it more seriously, and we'll be able to kind of replicate it and really create a new model and show people how to really do Web3 multi-platform storytelling. That's why we want to build our own platform. We're genuinely building our own Netflix right now. I just brought on a new executive, and he's actually helped to build Crunchyroll. So we are now and we have a team that's already built SVOD platforms before, and we're just going ham, man. I'm investing as much of the resources that I've made from NFTs right back into this infrastructure, so that we can truly start, offering better deals than Disney, offering better deals than Netflix, so that artists and creatives will come want to work with us instead.
Awesome. And for my last question, I was going to ask you what your goal was, but I think it's to build the Netflix for NFTs. I don't know.
I guess you can say that. Ask Edgy, man. Edgy's watched me for years, just talk so much smack and make these bold claims of what I want to do and what we can do. And I know he's been with me when I've been someday, Edgy, someday, we'll do this, we'll do that. And I'm fuck, Edgy's still with me. I don't know how I convinced him to stick around this long, because this has taken 10 years or whatever of constantly talking, right? But
yeah, we shared a lot.
This is a very long-term play.
Yeah.
Yes, and what I like about Ramon is it's about the self-taught, and he's iconoclast, and we share the same view, so I trust him. And the way I was working with many people as illustrator or comic artist, and he was the one who sincerely respect my work. So it was good.
Okay.
Yeah, I just have a high amount of respect for artists in general, because, as a writer, I know how hard it is. Just trying to get noticed, trying to get seen, trying to get that validation for your work, right? That's the hardest part. And it can be really disheartening when someone doesn't pay attention or doesn't take you seriously, or, just ignores you, right? So even now, as a quote unquote influencer, which I hate that word, but you know, it is what it is. There's just a lot of people that are watching what we're doing. I try not to ignore people or, you know, brush people off. It gets harder and harder the more, you know, we're building and I'm busy, but you know, at the end of the day, everyone is human. We're all just trying to accomplish our dreams. And having been at a point where I was like, maybe this is my grand exit from the world. Maybe this is not worth it. You know, I've been there, and I want to help enable more people to not have to get there, right? To be able to participate in something and grow with the community. And honestly, it's been so rewarding just the last few months, just being in Discord, building, you know, this Sandbox experience, working on all this stuff, and getting instant feedback from the people that are actively engaged. It's been super cool.
Awesome. And where can people find your project on social media?
The best place probably is Twitter. If you just go to @MythDivision, that has our link tree and that has our Discord. And I mean, honestly, our Discord, I have to give a shout out to our mods and our OG holders. Like, they are genuinely some of the nicest fucking people on the planet. Like, so supportive, so kind. Like, we have people like giving up their like free NFTs for being mods. Like, our mods get like 1 free NFT per month, and that's, you know, sort of the compensation model. And they just love being there. Like, we don't have to pay them anything because they're just there to hang out, because we're all like a family and we're just chatting and sharing alpha and like having fun. And so that's sort of, because we're still like in bootstrap mode and startup mode, it's a lot of like me just trying to figure out what value I can give to them, and they just like blow me away. You know, they're like, hey, can I give my free NFT to so and so because they've been super nice and helpful and this and that. And then I'm like, hey, they're gonna give you an NFT, and they're like, well, can I actually give that to someone else because they've been super helpful and like nice, and like it's just such a like cool thing to see. And because we did the organic thing and didn't, you know, do the pump and pay influencers, the people that are in there really want to be there, and they're really, I mean, they're really long-term holders, and so that keeps me motivated. Like, I don't have to worry about people coming in and fudding, because our own, you know, holders are like, whoa, if you were around more, you'd know that you're just fudding right now. You know, you don't know anything because you're not in Discord. You're, you know, I try and be in there at least every day just to say what's up, and you know, ideally drop some hints about what's going on. So
yeah, and that's pretty much about it. Is there anything else you guys would like to add?
No, I mean, again, I appreciate our community so much. I appreciate my partners and Edgy. You know, these are people I've worked with for a long time, and it truly does feel more like a family than a company. And I hope that as we grow, we can keep that vibe. That's really, I think, my only fear is like the bigger we get, the more chance we have of assholes coming in, right? Like, in my real life, I have like a no asshole policy. Like, and people who follow me on Twitter might know that I tend to call people out who I feel are doing shady stuff. So I try and keep that, you know, at the forefront of what we do. So, you know, for people who really want to come and be a part of just a group of really nice people and want to learn about how to take advantage of IP and how to really turn a character or a concept into something full, you know, it's not an overnight thing. We're not just going to like, you know, pick you and include you in the anime. The OG holders come first, but there's that possibility for everyone. We really want to help people to learn how to do that. So everyone is welcome. We don't, you know, we're super inclusive. We don't discriminate, all that kind of, you know, basic stuff.
Yeah, I love what you guys are doing, and thank you very much for coming on.
No, thank you for having me, and thanks. Shout out to Slater for inviting us on here. I love that guy. He's one of our
thank you.
Our best people in the Discord. Super helpful too.
And thank you to all the viewers for tuning in. I hope you all enjoyed this stream, and have a great day. Have a great night wherever you are. Peace out.
Thanks.